Hey everyone, and welcome back to Anthony's Career Advice. My name is Anthony, and today my goal is to try to provide advice. So today's topic is about understanding when you hit that pivotal point in your professional life where you're wondering, is everything on track? Are you doing what you think you should be? And saying, well, how do I move beyond the abstract and think about this in terms of, practically speaking, how do I know, or how will I know? Well, part of it is done through careful reflection, and in today's video I'm going to describe how you can do so. There's usually about 5 steps to really look at how to determine if something is right for you, or the steps that you've taken are ones that you should continue to take. And it's not something you do once. It's something you can kind of incorporate into your life plan. You can choose to do it monthly, every 6 months, a year, every 5 years. Think of it like a performance plan that you would do at work. The only difference is this one's going to be more impactful and more important because it's about you. Right? So here are the 5 things to consider, kind of like a checklist. So the first thing is your engagement level. Now, when we hear engagement, I know sometimes at work when I hear it, I cringe a little bit because it always typically means it's an anonymous survey with pre-planned questions that can be interpreted a number of different ways with the potential of having a little text box to elaborate a little bit further. But that's not always the case. But when I think about it from the context of you, the individual, because everything we do affects us and those that matter to us the most, right? So we have to think about it as, what's my engagement level and what do we mean by that? So are we using the skills and abilities that we enjoy using? Because if we are, then chances are our engagement level will be a lot higher. It may not be at its highest, but it's important. People enjoy working on tasks that require them to lean on their strengths more so than their weaknesses. I think if you're hearing that, that resonates with you. At least I hope that it does. And then the other thing is understanding, and this is still under the umbrella of engagement, okay? Are your contributions making a difference? And if so, how do you know? So in essence, do you know, or are you aware of the impact the work that you're doing is making? Now, impact can mean to society at large, could mean to an individual, could mean to a bottom line, could mean to a specific goal. There is no one definition of it, it's personal. So impact, think of it from that perspective. Do you like the outcome of your efforts? Because if you do, chances are what you chose to do is in alignment with you. It may not mean that you don't want to do any more careful reflection. It just means that you may be on a good path and there could be some things that require tweaking, which leads to the second area, right? So when we think of it from the context of a workplace or work environment, we think of, are we respected? Are we appreciated? Or how do we enjoy receiving praise? Right? We all like to be told we're doing a good job, but everybody's definition of praise is different. So take some time to define that. Really find out what's important to you. Define respect. How could your employer respect you? With meaning, right? If you want to show appreciation, what do you do? But more importantly, how would you like to receive it? Right? There is no wrong answer to this, right? Don't police yourself. For some, it may be, respect for me means a bonus, or a thank you, or a job well done, a plaque, a record, whatever it is. Be honest with yourself, because if you are, there's a high likelihood that if you can ask for it, you'll see that you may be able to attain it or get it. And if that's the case, well, that's a win-win. So that's important. The next area is compensation, which can sometimes tie into what I just said before about appreciation, but we have to really define what level of compensation makes the most sense for us and for the work that we're doing. Now I can fully disclose that if someone's going to pay me 7 figures to do something, I'll be very happy. But I also have to understand that what are those 7-figure or 6-figure jobs that are out there, right? Because that's the compensation for the services rendered. So as much as we want something, we also have to realize, given the work that we do, how reasonable or realistic is it from an industry perspective, but also with my employer, right? And there's nothing wrong with aiming as high as you want. It just means that if that becomes a priority for you, you are going to associate tasks with that kind of level of compensation to your plan and strategy, which may or may not keep you where you are. It may mean more effort needs to be put in. So definitely something to keep track of. And if you struggle with trying to define it, well, think about what your personal financial goals are. If you have an idea of what those are, then you can kind of determine what that reasonable balance is, or what that reasonable range is, knowing that more is always welcomed, but what's reasonable. So spend some time thinking about what are your personal financial goals, because that does tie into work, and that's why we do work half the time, right? The next area, the number 4 on the list of 5, is your motivation. We have to think back and say, well, what inspired you to accept this role in the first place, or go down this path? take this training. Whatever the case is, there is something to it, right? Even if you feel like you fell into it. That's a reasonable answer for most people starting out in their careers who lack experience, right? But you really want to define that. And if you're unhappy with what that answer is, really spend some time investing in a little bit more, right? And look at it as, well, what was my motivation in accepting this specific role? Is it that I was comparing it to others? Or is it that this was the only one, right? And it was this or nothing, so I accepted it. It allows you to kind of examine how important all of this is to you, right? And the motivation behind it, which leads to the last section, which is your life satisfaction. Now, this is an interesting piece because we sometimes like to separate our work selves and our home selves and our personal lives. But the reality is even when we do or we try to, it's very hard to turn off our identities, right? So we have to be able to make sure that we have a firm understanding of what our values are, and I think this ties in nicely to it. And there will be other videos that I discuss values in greater detail, but it's important to be able to look at your life satisfaction from the perspective of, how am I feeling fulfilled or being fulfilled outside of work? And am I? Because if I'm not, the problem may not be my job. The problem may not be my career. The problem may be that I'm investing way too much into something that at its core is supposed to provide me with compensation and a safe work environment for services rendered. So be mindful of this, okay? Think about other areas of your life that you may find have gaps and start filling in those gaps. Start doing activities that provide you with some level of satisfaction or fulfillment. It will help your personal life and it will help your professional life. It just does. So those are the 5 things. Quick summary: engagement level, respect, which ties into praise or appreciation, fair compensation or compensation, motivation, and life satisfaction. Okay? If you pay attention and do some careful reflection on these 5 areas, you'll be a lot clearer than maybe you are right now. And if you find that this video was helpful, or that my work is supportive, please like, share, and subscribe.